Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Doom Productions podcast. I'm Jordan.
I'm Ethan.
I'm Zach.
And we are Doom Productions. We make feature films and videos about filmmaking. All of our work is available for free on YouTube to watch. You can check it out. And this is our first podcast episode of the year. It feels like a while. It's been a while since we've done this.
Yeah, it's been a minute. And it's because the last several we've recorded have been with other filmmakers, which is awesome. But it hasn't just been the boys.
Yeah.
The Wild Boys.
Yeah, the Wild Boys. And we are changing our podcast a little bit. So if you are this is a great time if you're a first-time listener, this is a great time to join. If you're an old-time listener, this is a great new year ahead. But we sat down last year and we kind of talked about things we want to talk about on the podcast and what interested us and ways to make our show a little more interesting or a little more fresh. And we came up with an idea that I don't know, we were pretty entertained by it.
Yeah,
I guess. I mean, we're biased, but we liked it. And so here's how this is going to work essentially. Our name Doom Productions is funny because, it's kind of ironic because, I mean, we like horror movies and Doomed Productions sounds horror-ish. But it's also, every time there's a movie that comes out that does poorly or a movie that has trouble during its production, people will refer to that movie as a doomed production. So we thought, what better way to honor that name and to be true to the spirit of the title Doom Productions than to talk about doomed productions. And we're not talking about our own movies. What we do here, what we'd like to do this episode, future episodes, that kind of thing, we want to look at movies that did
had a hard time.
Yeah, that
in one way or another.
Yes, we want to share the stories of filmmakers' worst nightmares. And every week we want to talk about a production of a film that for one reason or another ran into problems. We're not here to talk about the quality of the movie. We're talking about the logistics, the filmmakers on location or on set or wherever, and things go wrong. And what did they do? And what happened to that movie? Again, we're not a review show, but we want to talk about, again, filmmakers' worst nightmares as a way to kind of celebrate filmmakers and everywhere and make them feel not so alone in their struggles of filmmaking troubles. Does that sound fair way to talk about or to sum up what we want to do here?
Yeah,
I think so.
It's a fun whole new world for us. And there'll still be some of the stuff that people enjoy. We're still going to cap off our episodes with the good old what are we watching, what are we working on, and we have a cool end of this episode. We want to talk about a movie that some of you might have seen, Skinamarink. It's going to be something we're going to discuss partway through this episode, so stick around for that.
Yeah. So it'll have what are you working on, what are you watching, Skinamarink stuff. But right now, let's just get into it. This week I'm talking about the movie Roar. So what I did was I went and I did a bunch of research on this old movie that came out that has had a troubled production. And every week, each one of us will share a different story. But I'm kind of like the I don't know what you call it.
You're the one who has to do it well first.
Yeah, I did all the research on this one. Next week, I don't know who's doing it.
It'll be me. It'll be mine next week.
Okay, well, stick around to the end so you can see which movie Ethan's going to talk about next week. But anyways, this week we're talking about Roar, made in 1981. Director and writer was Noel Marshall. The producers were Noel Marshall, Tippi Hedren, Robert Gottschalk, and it was starring Noel Marshall, Tippi Hedren, their daughter Melanie Griffith, and the couple's real sons in supporting roles. Have you two heard of this movie before? I brought it up to you.
Yeah, I've heard of it last year in a YouTube video, but before that, I'd never heard of it.
Okay. Zach, have you heard about Roar?
I've heard of it. I have not seen it.
Okay. Have any of you seen it? Ethan, have you seen it?
No.
Okay. Staying true to removing ourselves from like our opinions of the quality of the movie, I have not seen this either. So that's why I'm kind of really excited to talk about it, because this is a crazy story from just an outsider's perspective. So you guys ready to hear about the story of Roar?
Oh boy.
I don't know. Are we?
You're not ready. This is gonna be the movie to top in terms of like troubled, doomed productions. So Roar is about the movie Roar is about Hank, a naturalist who lives on a nature preserve in Africa with lions, tigers, and other big cats. When his family visits him, they are instead confronted by a group of animals. So, kind of like man versus nature, a little bit, man versus wild. So, a little bit of backstory. Tippi Hedren was famous for, most famously in the movie The Birds and I think Marnie by Alfred Hitchcock.
Okay.
And she was under contract with him when she was doing this. This is a whole nother story that I'm not going to get into now, but essentially Hitchcock was not very nice to her. And she was under contract with him for years, and he wouldn't hire her or wouldn't let her take work on other movies. So she was kind of trapped. So, let's see. The last movie she had done with him was Marnie in 1964, but her contract ended in like 1967. Now, again, if I get any of this wrong, someone please correct me in the comments, because I'm not a historian. I might be getting some of this wrong. That should be a big preference at all of this. So he wasn't allowing her to work. So she'd be like, "Hey, could I leave my contract and go do this other movie?" And he'd be like, "Nah, that's not like, no." Because
So it was like a contract of exclusivity then.
Not even. It was like, well, yes, she was like, I think the idea was that she had to be available to whatever he wanted to, like, in terms of work.
That's pretty crazy.
Oh no, is my camera? Oh no,
you're a little frozen.
I'm a little. Oh, can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No,
okay.
You're good.
I'm gonna change the battery pack. Why did that tell me? Oh my goodness, hold on. Give me just a sec. You guys fill the space while I change my camera
Doomed
battery.
Productions podcast, a doomed production.
I know, this is actually perfect. This is off to a great start. This couldn't have gone any better. Well, it could have gone better, but the fact that it didn't, really lives up to what we're striving for here in this new year of Doomed Productions. Which, fun fact for any of you listening, Jordan and I have been working on this channel for 10 years now. It'll be 10 years in, I think, May. So this is our 10th year of YouTube. So we're still not great at it. We're not perfect by any means. Hence the EOS webcam utility sign showing up on Jordan's screen there.
If you're on Spotify, you're probably confused. Unless we're able to show video on there now. I don't know.
I don't think we're doing that yet.
Okay.
I'm not promising that one this year. Maybe we'll feel cool. I don't know how to do that yet. I know you can, but
something like that. Yeah.
Should we make like predictions on what we think is going to happen in Jordan's movie? So
I'm going to assume that this Hank guy is like a zookeeper. Oh, hi,
yeah.
Sarah.
My wife just got home from her thing.
But like a like Crocodile Dundee type zookeeper, where he's like
a
little funky, like he like lives with his animals type of a thing. I don't know.
In my mind, I don't remember this
plot stuff.
I don't remember
thinking. Go for it.
Oh no, what's the guy's name? There was the documentary about him that came out 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. It was
the tiger thingy.
The tiger dude, the Tiger King, I think, or
Tiger
whatever.
King, yes.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
All I could think of was the meme of, I'm not gonna financially recover from this. It's like, it's that guy. But I never got around to watching that. But that's the vibe I'm getting right now. Is like I'm waiting for this guy to not be able to financially recover from his movie, or maybe not recover from wounds, because I know animal stuff's gonna happen.
See, like worst case scenario, one of the actors gets like mauled by a creature on set, but they get it on camera and they use it in the movie.
Worst case scenario is the whole cast and crew gets mauled and the animals now know how to make movies. Think of the horrors.
Can you guys see me?
Yep. Yeah, no, you're good.
Yeah, you're back.
Apologies for that. I stuck right before we hit record, I stuck a new battery in. I thought it was charged, but I guess it wasn't. Anyways,
Embarrassing.
I know. So, yes, Tippi Hedren was, after she left the contract and she was free to work, she wasn't getting offers for good roles. So she was getting a lot of offers for cameos, but she wanted better stuff. So that took her out to Africa, where she shot two movies called Satan's Harvest, and Mr. King Street's War, and both of those were shot back to back in Africa. In 1969, she was working on Satan's Harvest in Mozambique. Mozambique? Is it just Mozambique?
Mozambique. It's just Mozambique.
Yeah. So by this time, her and Noel Marshall, they're married and they're living with each other, or they're, traveling with each other. And while working, she and Marshall had seen a pride of lions move into a recently vacated house because of poachers. So they were like fleeing poachers and went into like a recently just empty house. And they're like, oh, that's a stunning image. I want to make a movie about this. It's like a really unique thing to see. So the two of them, husband and wife, they go back, they talk about this movie idea with their family, their kids. So that's Melanie Griffith, Joel, John, and Jerry Marshall. All of them liked the idea and wanted to be a part of it, except for Joel, who wasn't necessarily interested in acting in it, but wanted to be the art director and set director. That was kind of more his idea.
Okay.
And so they're like, here's our idea for a movie. We're going to shoot it in Africa, but tame lions are rare in Africa. So they realized that, oh, we can't shoot this in Africa because there's no tame lions. We have to shoot it in America. One of, in a place where we actually have tame lions. So a number of lion tamers warned them that it was impossible to bring a bunch of big cats together on a film set. So
says who?
I know, right? Who would have
just
thought?
Weren't brave enough to try it yet.
So other tamers, so this guy was quoted in Wikipedia, or he mentioned Wikipedia, Ron Oxley. I don't know who he is. Probably should have figured that out, but he suggested that what they did was, you guys should buy your own animals, give them basic training, and then gradually introduce them to each other. So rather than have a bunch of tame lions and bring them all together, just purchase them like one by one and slowly train them, slowly introduce them to each other. That way they're like camera ready and they're able to like do this movie. Makes sense. Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I'm pressing the buttons on my camera so it doesn't die again or have any trouble. Anyways, they estimated, the Marshall family, they estimated that this film would be completed by a budget of $3 million. Okay.
Pocket change.
Now, I want you two to guess. Remember that number. So they estimated that it would cost $3 million.
Okay.
How much do you think they went over? Like, what do you think the total budget ended up being?
I'm gonna go 25 million.
25 million. Okay. Zach?
I was gonna go like 15.
15 million. Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like we're both under though.
Hang on to those numbers. One of you is actually damn close.
Okay.
Hang on to those numbers. I'll reveal to you at the end, or once I get there. I try to line this up in a linear, so I take you through like conception to release. So
makes sense.
The first script was written in 1970. The movie wouldn't be released till 1981. So bear that in mind.
11 years.
This movie took 11 years to like make, from like writing to its release. So the working title was Lions. Then it was called Lions, Lions, and More Lions. And Noel Marshall wrote it, but then Ted Cassidy was also hired to co-write the movie as well. The original script called for 30 to 40 trained lions. And the whole kind of idea for the movie was to like, the main goal was to be a message for African wildlife preservation. So being like, hey, there are poachers out there, they're messing up the animals, that's not cool, knock it off. Like, that was the whole idea, which I think we can all agree is a pretty noble, like, that's a nice kind of message.
And we'll tell it with our lines we have taken from the wild,
I
all
know,
40 of them.
I know, I know. Yeah. The script was kind of there was a lot of changes in the script, but it was always kind of allowing for the inclusion of spontaneous things. So actually, if you now I don't know this for sure because I haven't seen the movie, but like according like well, I guess on the credits, like some of the lines are credited as the writers because they let the movie, the filming of it, be very spontaneous. So it was kind of flexible. They kept things loosey goosey because they knew that they had to approach it differently. So
Smart.
The majority of your cast is animals.
I know. So this is now, granted, this is all before filming. So they started keeping young lions purchased from zoos and circuses in their house. This family.
As you do.
So this is a side note that I found out. This was illegal at the time, but there was an Endangered Species Act of 1973, which where they really cracked down on these laws. So it was kind of like at a really lax time for them. And in 1972, the authorities discovered these animals and ordered them to be removed. So they purchased land in Soledad Canyon and hired staff to construct a set along with a 2-story house inspired by African architecture. The house was supported by 14 telephone poles, which made it sturdy enough to bear the weight of 50 big cats or 20,000 pounds. The staff was made up. No, this is the kicker. This is where things get a little juicy.
Okay.
The staff was made up of non-union workers because the marshals could not afford union workers and were afraid to break union rules. Unions.
And a workaround. Okay.
It's like, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But like in retrospect, you'll be like, oh boy, I don't think a union would have been able to allow this at all.
It's already really sketchy.
It's very sketchy, but it's all, again, it's Tippi Hedren, it's Noel Marshall, they're established directors. They're just not using like unions and stuff.
I see their logic. They're going about it the best way they can.
I mean, listen, there are times for using unions on a film production. There's times for not. Like for us, it just doesn't make sense because our crews are made up of family and friends. We're not big giant productions. We're not making lots of money off of our movies. That no one's getting injured on our stuff.
Usually, if there's anything dangerous, it's us doing it.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not going to sue myself.
Yeah. So, but like on something big like this, I mean, I'm not going to say what should have happened or shouldn't. I'm just going to present the facts as they happened. So they built a ton of stuff on this property. They planted cottonwood and Mozambique bushes because it's set in Africa.
Yeah.
They dammed a nearby creek to create a lake.
Okay.
Tons of fences were built to keep the animals from escaping. They built a mini studio. They built editing rooms. They built a kitchen, an animal hospital, an elephant barn, a 10,000-pound freezer because they had to feed all these animals, right? Like meat and stuff like that, and like have medicine and stuff like that. And Tippi Hedren herself, she operated a rear tractor on set and was in charge of the film's wardrobe. So I think that gives you a good picture of like, this is really like all hands on deck. Like everybody's doing a little bit of everything.
This is like if Lucas Farm or a Skywalker Ranch and a zoo had a baby.
Yeah.
That's what this sounds like. Like, it's a full on production studio and a zoo.
Yeah, no,
which is terrible.
They went all in, like, and I can appreciate the dedication to like, I am committed to telling the story.
Man,
I'll do it myself.
Incredible.
Yeah. So at a certain point, Noel Marshall took in 2 infant Siberian tigers and an African bull elephant named Timbo. So he changed the script to include different animals, and that's when he changed the name to Roar. Once he took in these different animals.
Okay.
And so in the movie,
like lions, and more lions.
No, I know, it's such a great title, isn't it? They added a scene of Timbo crushing a family's rowboat, like in the movie. Apparently, that's in the movie because in real life they saw Timbo crushing a metal camper, and they were inspired.
Timbo's a unit.
I know. Wow. So this is past filming, but I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit. So in 1979, they would have 71 lions, 26 tigers.
They went 30 over.
26 tigers. I don't know what a tigon is, but they had a tigon.
That's a lion tiger hybrid.
Okay. They had 9 black panthers. They had 10 cougars, 2 jaguars, 4 leopards, 2 elephants. I'm not done. 6 black swans, 4 Canadian geese, 4 cranes, 2 peacocks, 7 flamingos, and a marabou stork.
I'm really afraid.
But
Yeah.
they turned down a hippopotamus.
That would have gone too far. I don't blame them though. Hippos are terrifying.
Yeah, they really
apparently
are.
they are really dangerous.
I'll take the tiger over a hippo.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
So in the making, so by the end of the movie, what this is, I don't have like specifics of all this, but some of the big cats got sick.
Okay.
And 14 lions and tigers died during the production. Now, I
Oh,
wasn't able to
geez.
find if that was because of the production or something happened. I'm assuming that's because they were there for like 10 plus years. I don't know the life expectancy of tigers. I'm assuming it was kind of
Well, they're domesticated too, so it's probably going to
Yeah.
be reduced a little bit.
Captivity, yeah.
I'm assuming that they were normal under the circumstances. It didn't seem like any malpractice was done against the animals, but again, I don't know all the details. This is just what I read. So if anyone wants to look into that and let me know, you can find out, I'm sure.
Okay. Lions in captivity live to 25 years old, according to the first thing that pops up on Google. So
if these
take that how you will.
If these cats were there as grown cats, right?
Yeah.
And they're there for another 10 years, that would translate.
Reasonable.
It's
That would add up,
reasonable.
yeah.
And that's the average. So
Right.
who knows if they got sick or who
Yeah.
knows?
Well, it's not like on Apocalypse Now, which is a movie we actually should talk about in this.
That
It's
will
not
be
like
coming.
that. It's not like that where a cow was sacrificed within the movie, and that was kind of a whole controversy. It didn't seem like there was a controversy like that, but I don't know. Like, there could have been stuff like that, but we'll get there. So in 1973, before shooting starts, the cost of feeding the crew and the animals was $4,000 a week.
This was going on for how many years?
This is in 73. I think it was in, let me double check. I think it was in 70. So it was in 71 when they started getting animals, it looked like. So in 73, it was $4,000 a week. So they sold their 4 houses near Magic Mountain to pay for their debts. The Marshall's commercial production company went bankrupt. And they also sold things like Tippi Hedren's fur coat from the birds. Like, she's got that famous fur coat. So they sold that to pay for the movie. Oh, and this is fascinating. So Marshall had executively produced The Exorcist, and proceeds for that movie partially funded this one. And people have theorized that because the money from The Exorcist was used to fund this film was cursed. Like, there's an Exorcist cursed. It was an Exorcist doomed, yeah.
Interesting.
And this is I've kind of already talked about this a little bit, but because of the low funds, members of the family and the crew, or the members of the family, had to do other crew tasks like boom operator, and other kind of work. So John Marshall, this is specifics to him. He was an animal wrangler, a set mechanic, a boom operator, and did veterinarian work, like give vaccines and draw blood.
Where we're going, we don't need unions.
You just need children.
This is our goal. This is the Dune Productions goal. We're just gonna have kids and force them into our movies, and it's gonna be great. We've already forced our girlfriends,
70
and wives
lions.
and yeah, and 70 lions. Look, once you have 40 in your script, what's another 30 more?
Exactly. So filming began in 1976. So this is 6 years after the idea. And they've been working on this for like 6 years by this point, getting all these animals.
Okay.
During the course of the movie, now again, there's some different sources on these numbers, but from what I can tell, this is the common consensus as of now. Over the course of the movie, 70 people were injured from multiple animal attacks, just from a macro point of view.
a lot. That's a lot of people.
And actually, I want to read this quote really quick that I found. So this is in 1977 from Noel Marshall. So this is after they've been filming for like a year. He says this is why he did this. So he says, "You get into anything slowly. We have been on this project for 5 years. Everything we own, everything we have achieved is tied up into it. Today we're 55% complete. We're at a point where we just have to do it." So, they're determined.
Yeah,
like they're
there's
in
no
it.
giving up.
So, you ready for the production part of the Doom production?
Oh boy.
I don't know. I don't know if they were, and I don't know if I am.
Filming was only supposed to last for 6 months, but filming was restricted to 5 months at a time because the cottonwood trees turned brown from November until March. So there was a time limit that they weren't accounting for. Okay. This is going to be a little bit less structured, but I'm just going to give you these facts, random facts. The cinematographer, Jan de Bont, spent hours setting up 5 cameras and waiting for cats to do something that'd be included in the film. So they adopted a documentary like filming style, because obviously with big animals like that, you can't control everything.
You can just go out there with a stick and poke them.
I mean, you can try.
And that's how they ended up with 70 injured.
I know.
That's 70 good shots, I hear.
Yeah. They recorded their film with 8 Panavision 35mm cameras. Right. Not super important, but that's what they used. Oh no. Okay. There's a scene in the movie where they had to drive a 1937 Chevrolet with 2 tigers. It took 7 weeks to complete because they had to train the animals how to ride in the car. Sure, that went great.
Oh boy.
Marshall, when they were filming, he says he often refused to stop filming because he didn't want to lose a take. Sometimes only one take from a day was usable because, again, it was documentary style. Another thing is there was a session where they had to put honey on Tippi Hedren's face so a leopard would lick her.
Oh no. And
she considers that to be one of the most dangerous scenes she ever shot because the trainers were 8 feet away, but the leopard's right here. So
that's it. You're done.
Yeah. There were scenes where some of the big cats were shot and killed by hunters, but they did this by shooting this when the animals were tranquilized for the annual blood draw. So this is something I appreciate. This tells me from the clues, from this little clue, this tells me that they took the care of the animals the best that they could, because they didn't shoot them with tranquilizers while they were filming. They waited until they were going to have their annual blood be drawn and then tranquilize them. And then that's how it
was planned. Yeah, it was already in, for what they needed.
But again,
I respect that.
I'm not an expert, who's to say what really happened? So, okay, now here's the injuries. Let's get into the injuries. Great. Within 2 years of filming, there were 48 injuries. There was a crew of 140 people. As I said before, 70 people were injured. So that's half of the crew. Noel Marshall, let's break it down by person. Noel Marshall, the director, he was bitten when he was working with male lions during a fight scene. He suffered 8 puncture wounds on his leg caused by a lion who was curious about his makeup, and he had been bitten around 11 times. He was hospitalized when his face and chest were injured, and he had suffered blood poisoning. He had gangrene after too many attacks, and it took him years to recover from all these injuries.
I'm out. Not worth it.
That's just the director.
I mean,
jeez.
It's one of those things where if your crew is getting hurt, the director better be getting hurt too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tippi Hedren, during a promo shoot, before cameras had even started rolling, during a promo shoot, she was bitten in the head by a lion. Tembo, the elephant,
not Tembo,
or Timbo. I'm not sure. It might have been a different elephant. She was picked up by her ankle and bucked off his back. and she had, now I can't pronounce this. She had phlebitis, and gangrene in a fractured hand.
Wow.
She was scratched in the arm by a leopard and bitten in the chest by a cougar. That's your star. Melanie Griffith, her daughter, she was attacked by a lioness and needed 50 stitches, and she needed facial reconstruction. So
Wow.
Melanie Griffith, she's a
Oh my
pretty
gosh.
well-known actress. I mean, we've all seen her and stuff,
Mhm.
but like if you look at
Mhm.
her, I mean, it's not like it's super obvious, but like keep that in mind. Like when she was a child, she was like mauled by a lioness. Like the fact that she she survived is like just absolutely incredible.
Oh my goodness.
John Marshall, one of the sons, bitten on the back of the head by a lion. He needed 56 stitches. Jerry Marshall, bitten on the thigh when he was in a cage on set. He was in the hospital with his mom for about a month, Tippi Hedren, or stepmom. I'm confused on who, blood relations or whatever, but they're a family. Jan de Bont, the cinematographer, scalped by a lion, the same one that bit Tippi Hedren in the head. He needed 220 stitches.
Oh, wow.
My goodness.
The AD, first AD, assistant director, one of the lead lions bit him in the throat and jaw and tried to pull off one of his ears after he had unintentionally cued an attack. So when you're working with animals, right, there's cues that they do. Like on Harry Potter, they would like have cues, and then an owl would fly past the screen and drop a letter or whatever. And it's a simple cue. He had accidentally cued an attack, and a lion like took him by the throat and the jaw and tried to rip off his ear.
Who trained maul mode into the lions?
I know.
Just like, just give one of these and
I know.
go for it.
He was also injured on the scalp, chest, and thigh. He needed 4.5 hours of surgery. The attack was nearly fatal, but when it was reported in the paper, they reported it as merely acute. They said, oh, it's no big deal. It's just a minor thing, which, I can see, bad press and everything.
Yeah.
After this particular attack, 20 crew members left. The turnover was high on this movie.
Good. I don't blame him.
No unions and whatnot. Tembo bucked his trainer into a tree, and the trainer broke their shoulder. So those were all the injuries, all the specific injuries. Like I said, 70 people out of the crew got injured out of 140, and there was a high turnover rate. So there's probably a lot of stuff that was going on. But this is the other big trouble that happened. So pipes and beams from Aliso Canyon were flooded with water and burst on February 3rd, 1978. So 2 years into shooting.
So like the house's beams, like the support beams.
A different canyon. This is nearby.
Oh,
okay,
got it.
They burst after a night of heavy rain, and all of these were pointed at the Marshall property, and the property was flooded and destroyed 2 years into filming. Remember, they're only filming for 5 months at a time. So they filmed for 5 months, shut down, film for another 5 months, shut down. I
thought they said it only needed 6 months.
So they would have been at the tail end. Like they would have been mostly done with filming that second year.
Yeah, but they wanted more time probably because of how, I mean, again, documentary style. I'm sure they didn't have everything they wanted.
Yeah. So it was flooded and destroyed, the whole property. 4 sound crew members had to be rescued. And Noel Marshall, the director, was in the hospital for knee surgery at the time. He left the hospital to go rescue the animals. Like that's pretty awesome.
I want that movie. I want that movie.
Yeah, like
Ace Ventura.
Literally make a movie about the making of this movie. That would be cool.
It is absolutely incredible. And so again, I admire his commitment and dedication to the role and to these animals.
Yeah.
15 lions and tigers escaped from the set after fences and cages collapsed. Police killed 3 of these lions, which
That's
I
where a few of
understand.
those deaths came from.
Yeah. And I
Yeah,
understand,
okay.
like, you're just roaming around the neighborhood and then all of a sudden lions and tigers pop up on you. That's kind of scary, and like,
Yeah.
because we don't have lions and tigers in America, right? Like,
No,
naturally.
closest thing we got is cougars.
Yeah, so
And then your friendly neighborhood tabby cat.
right. So a broken dam
Jarring.
and lots of flooding caused a nearby lake to be filled with sediment, and over $3 million worth of damage was done. So remember, everything was here. Their editing studio, their house, their kitchen, their suite, everything was at this property.
Film development,
entirely destroyed.
Like the footage, guys, the footage.
But the negative had been sent to a Hollywood studio for coloring and stuff like that. So the negative was safe. The negative was safe.
Could you imagine all of that for nothing?
So the production had to be halted for a year to rebuild sets and the property. And I think the following September, there were 12 wildfires, but none of the property was like harmed. Like, it seemed like the wildfires didn't have as big an impact as the other stuff. That's what the filming of Roar was like.
So smooth. It went great.
Now,
the movie got finished. That's all you need.
In terms of the release, the post-production, I couldn't find as much as like on post-production or editing or anything. But in terms of the release, it was not initially released in North America. So they instead released it internationally. It was acquired by Filmways Pictures and Alpha Films. Despite performing well in Germany and Japan, Roar was a box office failure, grossing $2 million worldwide. Now, earlier I said that this movie, they estimated it was going to cost $3 million, right? That was the budget.
So you're already under budget. Like, you're already under making back your budget.
Do you guys remember the numbers you guessed for how much the total budget was in the end?
I remember what was it? We guessed how much more it cost than the budget. I had guessed 15, you had guessed 25.
25. Yeah.
So the final budget was 17 million. So Zach, you were pretty damn close.
Good one, Zach.
Okay.
Dang.
And this is like in the 70s, so this is like adjusting for, this is like inflation time. So it's
I mean, that's pretty hefty.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
So it cost 17 million, gross 2 million. Now there are Tippi Hedren and the director, they have given like different quotes on the numbers, and it's not entirely sure, but I checked Box Office Mojo, and what it says on Wikipedia roughly aligns with that. But here's the sad thing. Before it came out, Tippi Hedren predicted that it would gross 125 million to 150 million, and it only grossed 2 million. And that's just that's got to feel so terrible when it's
that's gut-wrenching.
When your project that you spend so much time on like doesn't connect with people, or doesn't have like a big release in America. Yeah. And so this is part of that kind of disputing numbers is John Marshall. He said that the distributor paid 1 million, and Noel Marshall told him that the movie made 10 million from West Germany and Japan. So, we could be looking at the number stuff might not add up exactly, but its initial release did not seem to be successful. However, in 2015, there was a Draft House film. So like Alamo Draft House and like Tim League and everybody, they re-released the movie in America, and then it grossed 110 million about. So honestly, so total with its re-release. Yeah. So that's pretty damn good. Like that's that's all right. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the preview that they put out when they re-released the movie is pretty funny. It's like it very much leans into the chaotic nature of the making of the movie.
I've seen that trailer, yeah.
Yeah, it's very dramatic. It's very serious. It's like, no animals were harmed in the making of this movie, but 70 people were, or something like
I've
that.
seen the posters for the re-release. Then yeah,
Yeah. And so critically on Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 72%. If anybody knows anything about us, we don't really care about Rotten Tomatoes, but I think it's interesting to note in a study like this.
Is that audience or critic? What's that critical you said?
Critically, yeah. I
Okay,
didn't see
got it.
the audience. I'll jot that down next time. But the consensus, this thing says, Roar may not satisfy in terms of acting, storytelling, or overall production, but the real life danger on screen makes it difficult to turn away. The initial reviews were mixed to negative, but again, I haven't seen it, so I don't know if it's how the quality of the movie, but it's fascinating to hear so how it did. So it seems like in retrospect it's received better, but people at least appreciate the kind of like danger of all of it. Like that's part of the enjoyment of it, is of how dangerous the movie is.
Yeah.
Well, and it seems like with the re-release, it helped like knowing what went into the movie itself.
Yeah.
Totally.
As opposed to being like, oh, here's an animal movie about lions type of a thing.
Yeah.
So
being
just
like, oh shoot, that was sketchy.
It's just Dr. Dolittle or whatever. Yeah.
So just some closing notes that I found on Roar. After the release, the financial failure hindered the plan. They were gonna fund the animals' retirement, and I'm assuming the animals that were a part of the movie, but that couldn't necessarily happen. What happened
so
to all
they're
the
still
animals?
working at the Safeway down the road, and
what happened? I didn't find out. This is the thing that gets me. Noel Marshall and Tippi Hedren had grown distant by the time production was completed, and they divorced in 1982. That's sad. I'm not sure I could give up a marriage for one of my movies personally, but
no, not worth it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm not saying they willingly did that. I'm sure there was other things, and but
oh yeah, there's always layers to that.
Yeah, there's lots of layers, but Tippi Hedren founded the Roar Foundation and established the Shambhala Preserve Sanctuary and Soledad Canyon in 1983 to house the animals after filming was complete. Oh, so I did write that note down. Yeah. So the animals were housed after it was filmed.
Okay.
I'm going to read this quote really quick, and then I'm going to read the last thing. So Hedren, so she wrote a book, and so in the book she talks about the filming about this. So she said that her and her husband realized that while they accomplished their goal to capture wild animals in an astonishing and absolutely unique way, the story was poorly made and secondary to the actions, reactions, and interactions of the big cats. She also said that the injuries inflicted on the crew members and cast were the result of putting their lives at risk to make the film. Hedren, however, noted a positive outcome for those who worked on Roar. Many of the people involved went on to have successful careers or jobs in the film industry, such as DeBont and Griffith. So that's all right. I'm guessing it'd probably be hard for her to take a more objective look at the movie, her being so close, but I appreciate that she was able to she seems very honest and objective in her thoughts. But this is the last thing I'll say on Roar, is that Noel Marshall, after the movie, he never directed another film, and he passed away in 2010. So that is the story of Roar. Wild.
Truly.
Yeah. Yeah. What are your guys'
I have one
thought? Oh yes, questions, thoughts, comments.
And you probably don't know this number, but I want to know, because of the way it was filmed, because you're talking about, again, documentary style, which means you're waiting for things to happen. Cameras are probably rolling a lot. How many feet of film came out of this production?
Ooh,
that's a good question.
And I guess translate that to minutes, I guess. How many minutes of footage were shot versus what made into the final film? What's on the cutting room floor?
Well, if they shot,
I want to know that.
If they shot with 8 cameras at a time, maybe not for all of it, but like a lot of cameras, a ton of film, I'm sure.
Yeah. It's got to be astronomical amounts. Like,
It
how do you, as an editor, when you're editing pre-digital linear editing style, how do you even manage that?
Well,
It's incredible.
Well, this is. Oh, you're right. Yeah, because they started filming. No, they filmed it before Star Wars, or like when Star Wars blew up. Maybe by
around that time, yeah.
Well, actually,
because they started filming in '76, right?
Yes, but the negative was sent to Hollywood in '76. It looks like, so that's just 4 star. Yeah, if they were editing this in like the '80s, I would say maybe they had access to like all that nonlinear editing software, but I don't think they did. This was just cut the film, paste it together, all that.
Just do it.
They wouldn't have known.
Which obviously Hollywood knew how to do that, but still, like when you're dealing with that quantity of footage, I hope they paid the editor well.
Yeah. It's a fascinating story. The moral of it, I mean, what's the lesson filmmakers can take away from this? If you're hearing this production of Roar, and I should say I haven't seen the movie again, but I've seen the trailer and I've seen like clips from it, and it's like wild. Like it looks so dangerous. It's like scary to watch. And again, I can't comment on the quality of the movie, nor do I even really want to. That feels weird, but like I think when you watch the footage, it is powerful stuff to watch. Like Tippi Hedren with her face like this close to a lion, and like all the trouble that went on behind the scenes. Like it draws you in. There's a power to the footage that I've seen.
Yeah. I don't even know what like kind of lesson there is. Like, maybe don't.
Don't.
Just
don't. Yeah.
Just don't. Sometimes it ain't worth it. But also on the flip side of that message, if we're going to spin this positively, which I'm going to try and do, perseverance can sometimes help you overcome astronomical odds, such as having that many animals on set and that many injuries in a non-union shoot where you're that far behind budget, that far overshooting, you have floods and fires, and you still make the movie. That's pretty cool. I can respect that a whole lot.
Oh yeah.
I ditto. I think the dedication, perseverance are absolutely the main takeaway from this story.
Yeah. So if you have a couple bad shooting days on your movie that has no funding and your actors, maybe don't show up, or you lose a location, you could have 70 lions and a bunch of bobcats and cougars and tigers and an elephant named Timbo crushing one of your people, and you can still finish the movie. So it's all good.
Yeah.
Well, have some perspective.
I think it's comforting to know that none of our movie shoots will ever go as wild as Roar. So
I do have a pitch though for a movie.
I
was thinking maybe we could get some great white sharks and house them. Just a few. I'm thinking like 30.
I mean, we could do
we're
it.
We're gonna make the live action
CGI.
Finding Nemo, guys.
Just get CGI. We can deal with that.
I want to be Nemo in the water.
Oh, I'm not sure if that. Okay, maybe there's a market for that. Yeah. Well, anyways, that's the story of Roar. Next week, Ethan will bring the story of, what are you bringing next week?
Ben-Hur.
So I don't know anything about the making of Ben-Hur actually, so I'm excited to hear about it.
It's nuts. It's
oh boy.
Yeah, we're starting off strong. It's a pretty wild movie. I had a different movie I was going to do, but I changed to Ben-Hur once I started reading about that one just on the side.
Cool.
So yeah, Ben-Hur.
Well, I'm excited to hear it. And with that, we're going to move into our next section, an old familiar section of the podcast, called "What Are You Watching?"
Yeah.
So,
and we just watched something together. I mean, usually here we all kind of go around, share what we've been watching, both in movies, TV, YouTube movies, all that, and give our thoughts or whatever, just our impressions on it. Kind of just like more or less, it's a movie journal.
Yeah.
But what we talked about going in first was last week we went to go as a group to see Skinamarink in theaters, because that, if you don't know, is a movie that's had a super limited run, and it happened to be playing. All of us wanted to go see it, so we were going to make a video, like a standalone video documenting us going to see Skinamarink, and we shot like half of it. But then we watched the movie and they got real complicated real quick.
We spent
So what happened?
We spent
Yeah,
30
go
minutes
ahead.
outside the theater just talking about it.
We were like, how can
Yeah.
we talk about this without spoiling the movie?
Yeah.
And so pretty much we had a full podcast conversation outside. We were like, well, you know what? Let's just save this for the podcast and dedicate a section of What Are You Watching to Skinamarink, because we think this movie deserves it.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to jump into here, is we're going to do a little bit of a, not so much a review or anything, but just kind of talk about our thoughts on that movie, both within like the filmmaking space, maybe some of the filmmaking. It's going to be kind of a lot. It's going to probably be throwing a lot of ideas onto the wall. But I don't,
Well, no, we're not going to spoil it. I think, because not a lot of people have had the chance to see it yet, so we don't want to take that away from people. So if you haven't seen Skinamarink, keep listening. If you have seen Skinamarink, we'll allude to things that you'll understand, but we're not going to spoil anything.
Yeah. Good clarification.
Yeah. So
gosh,
how do we
I will say,
plan this part?
When we got out of the theater and like I stood up and like I moved my arms, I was like, oh gosh, I've been sweating this whole movie.
I had some tense shoulders.
Yeah.
I
was terrified.
Yeah.
I was utterly terrified.
Yeah. It did exactly what it set out to do. We'll say that. Like, in terms of a movie, having a vision and trying to execute on that, like A+. Like that's kind of that's what we strive for with our movies, is that level of like having an idea, sticking to it, executing on the plan. I think it's and showing how little can go so far. Like I think when we walked out of the movie, we were just like, oh my gosh, this movie, like any one of us could have made this movie. And that's not like a diss of like it being of any quality indicators or anything, but it's just like this movie is so like accessible on a like a technical level. But this guy was brilliant enough to like make it and make it the way he did. And like crack the code. I think what I've seen a lot of people talking about is in articles or reviews is talking about how they thought like the age of the Blair Witch and the Paranormal Activity movies, like being able to happen, like that we were past that. But this guy tapped into that same kind of like cultural magic and brought in a whole new thing. So I don't know.
Well, it's totally I will say it's not going to be for everybody. I think the three of us, we loved it. Well, I can say I loved it. I think it's a perfect, like, there's such a concise, clear vision to it. And like you said, it set out to do everything, accomplished everything it set out to do. And there will be people who think that it's way too slow. And there will be people who watch it with their arms folded and be like, you know, nothing happens in this movie. But I think what those people might not, I mean, first of all, I don't think it's a good way to approach a movie with your arms crossed. But also, I think that you have to be open to allowing the movie to hypnotize you, which is kind of a skill you need to develop as a viewer when you watch more slow cinema stuff. So stuff like Bellatar, stuff like Tsai Ming Liang, when you watch more art house films. I mean, I think Skinamarink, I think it's way more of an art house film that happens to be absolutely terrifying than it is a horror film, if that makes sense. So
yeah, just from in regards to like creative choices and stuff like that. Yeah.
So to anyone who's not used to art house movies or slow cinema, I would say stick with it. Like just stick with the whole thing. Do not look at your phone, turn off all the lights in your house. Don't like try to create a scenario where you allow this movie your full undivided attention for the full hour and 40 minutes or whatever.
Yeah,
And
we had like 2 or 3 people leave the theater right before it got good.
Like the first, like within 30 minutes, 40 minutes at most, they were out. And that was like, then they just missed it. Like if they had held on, I think they would have had a different experience. But yeah, they walked out.
Yeah, there's a pretty, the first, I should say, I guess the first scary scene that happens is like, because the buildup was so drawn out and it was such a good exploration of mood and tone, because that's so like stretched out like a rubber band, when that thing happens, it snaps and like the whole movie like explodes with just fear and just you're just afraid and frightened. And it's just so powerful.
Yeah. And that movie was so it does a great job playing with your anticipation, because there's so many moments where you think the next scare has to happen right now. And it does such a great job of the rubber band stretches way further than it should possibly be able to stretch. If we're going to keep with that analogy, I think that's a perfect comparison for it. Like it just keeps going. And so those big like the moments where it does snap, they feel huge, even though on paper, I think it would seem almost underwhelming what happens, but it's so big within the context of the movie.
It never, and the rubber band, again, sticking with that analogy, the rubber band, it never snaps when you expect it to. Like if it's really drawn out, if the moment's really drawn out and you expect it to snap, it doesn't. If you expect a really short like jump scare thing, it doesn't happen. It like happens at the perfect time when you don't
plays
expect
with tension so well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Give this filmmaker all the money.
Yeah.
Let what's
$15,000 is what
Kyle
apparently
Ball?
this costs. Yeah. You can find his YouTube channel. He's got short films. I've been watching a little bit of his stuff. I need to do a full proper deep dive.
Give him everything.
Yeah, he's got a YouTube channel.
Give him everything.
It's easy to watch his.
He is so talented. And clearly, like, he's been doing this for a long time. Why shouldn't he be? He's put in all the work. Yeah. So good.
No, I think a YouTube review I saw, I don't remember which channel it was, but he was talking about like at the end of the day, like this filmmaker so obviously is like hungry to make movies. And I think, that just comes across so well. This guy, like, he does it out of like a deep love and passion and understanding of the medium he's using. And it truly is like masterful to watch. And but again, like, he has a YouTube channel. You can go and watch all of his old stuff. You can see tons of videos. This guy has a catalog of trying. And I think that's such a great resource to have like, when I look at directors like Peter Jackson, who we really like, and how we can go back and watch his documentaries of watching movies like Bad Taste, and then watching him grow into things like Lord of the Rings, and having these big documentaries of how he makes a movie, to see a movie like this, where now there's a whole other catalog of a masterful filmmaker and getting to watch them rise. I think that's so useful for up and coming filmmakers to learn from.
Yeah. And like you said, it's the genius of it is the simplicity of it. Like, I don't even want to reveal like the kind of simplicity of it all, but like you said, like, it's a movie that anyone could have made, but at the same time, no one else but this filmmaker could have made, because of his unique vision, his unique taste, his unique like idea. Like, that's what's so great is when you like, again, like the Blair Witch, same thing. Such a simple, the simplicity was the genius of it. And it's been copied a billion times since, but no one's ever been able to capture that because no one had that particular, spark.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Yeah. I I will say, I don't know if you guys are the same. I've been terrified, a lot more scared of the dark since seeing that movie.
With the night we got home, like because my wife came and watched it too. When we got home, our roommates were all asleep, so we were the last ones coming in. Sarah went upstairs ahead of me, and I was putting some stuff away in the kitchen. I realized I have to be the one to turn off all the downstairs lights and go upstairs and turn off all those lights. And it was awful. It was truly awful. And I like ran upstairs, didn't even turn off all the stair lights, and I was like in the room. So I was like, "You got the lights off?" No, not yet. I got to go back, but I just need to get here first.
Yeah.
But oh man, yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
it lives in your head.
It lives
Yeah.
up to the hype, in my opinion.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, just give it,
But the
allow it
best
to
thing you can do
hypnotize you.
is go. Yeah. And go in with no expectation other than exactly that. Yeah, let it hypnotize you and let it bear with it.
Yeah,
because it's so worth it.
Yeah, very, very powerful. And it comes out on Shudder on, I think, February 3rd or 2nd. I can't remember exactly, but if you didn't get a chance to see it in theater, which I think is the best way to see it, go see it on Shudder, make a night of it, turn all the lights off in your house. You should watch it
Don't
with
touch
friends.
the volume. Go
Don't touch the
loud.
volumes.
Go loud and don't touch it.
Watch it with somebody so you don't like die of fright and pee your pants.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's absolutely horrifying, terrifying. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Anyways,
well,
any other thoughts on that, or should we move on to our next segment?
Let's get the last thing going.
All right. Our closing segment of the show is, what are you working on? Because we're all filmmakers here. We make movies. We don't just talk about movies and watch movies, but we make movies. So we want to, we have this segment here to let the folks know at home listening what we are up to. So, Zach, what are you up to these days, filmmaking wise?
Well, I've done a fair amount of coalescence stuff since last we had a podcast where we talked about this sort of thing. So that's been going well.
Coalescence being your feature film that you're working on that you shot.
Yes.
That you're still shooting, but majority shot.
Majority is shot. Got some more stuff to get in the coming few months. But yeah, so far so good on that. And then some of you might remember at the end of 2022 last year, we revealed the titles of these super secret mystery projects that we are working on, that are like our main focus in this next year or so. And so I've been doing a lot on my project. I will leave it at that.
Yeah. Well, can we say that the draft, the script will be done when the script will be done? Can we reveal that?
Yes, the script will be tentatively done in a week from the time of this recording.
Yes.
Yeah.
So even sooner by the time you guys hear it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This will be done in a few days by the time people listen to this.
Yeah.
Cool.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
I've been is that all your stuff, Zach? I don't want to cut you off. Yeah. I've been working on my outline for my secret feature film as well. And that's been going good. Took a little bit of a break just for the holidays and getting back into the work schedule, but it's coming back. And then trying to think about some short film stuff too for this year or something. I don't know. After watching Skinamarink, I was, it's hard not to be inspired. So just thinking of some ideas. So I don't know what'll come of it, but we'll see.
For me, I, like Ethan and Zach, I've been working on my project. Well, kind of. I started it, but I kind of ran into trouble, so I started writing a different project, and I'm doing a lot of writing. I'll just say that. And I'm also finishing up my movie La Danza, which there will be some big news about that coming, I would imagine, in the next month or so.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's some
Typical doomed stuff. We got to make
Yeah.
things more complicated than it already
yeah, we
is.
really do.
Mhm.
Let's big things are happening with Ladanza. Bigger things that I could have anticipated or expected or planned on, but you know, that's life. So
At this point, we should have anticipated it.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, yeah.
But it's good.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
It is good stuff. Don't
It's
worry about it.
something that only we could do. I should say that. So
Yeah.
but yeah, working on Ladanza, editing that up. And yeah, I think that's all we got going on. So yeah, thank you everybody for listening. If this was your first episode, we got a lot of cool stuff on our channel: short films, podcasts, interviews, feature films, free feature films to check out. If you're a returning viewer, please share this episode with your friends and family. Like, if everybody who listened to this could just share it on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, that would mean a whole lot to us. It only takes a little bit of time out of your day. Plus, I think this is probably one of the more interesting episodes where you get to learn a little bit about like crazy film history.
Yeah.
And there will only be more to come.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you everybody for listening. Tune in next week.
One last plug.
Oh, yes.
One last plug.
Go ahead.
Well, we have a Patreon, and this year we've changed it. It's revamped. Check it out if you haven't considered supporting us on Patreon before. It's super simple. We have just 2 tiers, $1 and $3. It's a great way to support us, keep the lights on here at Doom Productions. And also we've got things like monthly live streams and a whole bunch of other stuff. So just go check it out. It's linked down below. Again, it's just a great way to support us and what we do, and we appreciate it. Just want to throw that in there.
Good call. Yeah. We will have our monthly live stream coming up. Oh, we have the date too, right? We can plug that now.
Yes.
So if you want to get
sure. Why not? We're doing
on February 9th. The time is, I think it'll be 5 p.m. PST.
Yeah.
But it'll be saved on our Patreon for anybody who misses it. But like, it'd be really cool to interact with our fans and anyone who's listening. We're just going to talk about movies and you can ask us anything. It's like, think of it as a big AMA session.
Yeah. But it's only on our Patreon. So if you want to be there, that's how you get it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Give us money.
Really. Anyways, thank you so much for listening, everyone. Hope you enjoy this episode, and we will see you next week.